was beautiful to see, like you said, on full display. I'm sorry, I'm like choking up about it, that, you know, we are in this together. This is our moment.
I'm talking with Congresswoman Lisa Blunt Rochester today, who represents Delaware and is running for the U.S. Senate. She has a new veteran plan out that I really wanted to talk to her about. But as I'm doing this intro, we're playing that clip of Ted Cruz on the floor of the U.S. Senate, fist bumping his buddies after killing a bill that would have taken care of veterans who suffer from toxic burn pit exposure. Before we get into the particulars of your plan, Congresswoman, can you talk about the stakes? Can you talk about what happens if the Republicans regain the Senate and are able to enact their dark vision for America as evidenced in Project 2025?
Well, first of all, Ken, thank you. Thank you for all that you do to amplify these issues. Thank you for your service. And I think a lot of times, you know, when I started having these roundtable discussions in my state focused on delivering for Delaware, but specifically for veterans, one of the things that became very clear is that it is not enough for us to say thank you for your service. We got to do something about it. We got to make sure that we are supporting all that you've given for our country, and not just our country, for the world. And so for me, it was an honor to just make sure that we had a plan that focused on where do we go in the future. And I think that shifts us to looking at Project 2025. I mean, basically, it's sort of like, where are we going in the past? And, you know, the fact that someone would be fist bumping in the Senate chamber, a place, a hallowed hall about the democracy of our country, and really going against those who have, some put their lives on the line and some who have given their lives, to me, really shows the contrast of this moment, like the choice that all of us have. We have some people who say that they're patriotic and that they support this country and that they support our veterans, but don't walk the talk. And then you have Kamala Harris, you have our Senate Democrats who are really bent on making sure that we uplift our veterans, our service members. And so for me, doing this as part of our Delivering for Delaware tour, it was a no-brainer. I mean, it was one of the most important plans of our tour. We've talked to small business owners, some whom are veterans. We've talked to, we've had roundtables on housing and returning citizens. And again, there's an intersection with veterans on almost every single issue that we talk about: healthcare, reproductive freedom. There's that intersection. And so when we look at Project 2025, that would talk about gutting benefits for our veterans, that would talk about specifically veterans that may have a disability. And I started as a caseworker in a congressional office back in 1989, where part of our job was to make sure that people had the supports that they were due. This moment, we don't want to go backwards. We don't want to go back to a time when even the thought of gutting the VA was something that was thought about. And so for me, this is our choice. This is our choice, and this is our moment. And so Project 2025, I feel like it should be called Project 1825 or Project 1625. For us, we want to move towards the future. And that's what's so exciting to me about our veterans plan.
I would love your perspective on the politics of this, something we've talked about a lot on this show, but it seems like Project 2025 was in a way gift wrapped for the Democrats and for this campaign. I mean, I suspect that political scientists will look back on this era, this campaign, and conclude that the biggest strategic blunder of the Republicans was writing down what they planned for America. I mean, in the past, they have at least been able to hide their cynicism, their nihilism. I mean, they want to tear everything down. You mentioned gutting the VA. We can point to something now. We can point to Project 2025, and the fingerprints of the Trump-Vance campaign are all over it. And we can tell the American people this is what they want to do to us.
Right. Oh, I mean, I always say, not only did they say the quiet part out loud, they wrote it in a book. I mean, it is just incredible that they've done that. But I also will give credit to us for picking up the book and making sure that in every single setting we went to, we said, you need to take a look and see what's in that 900 pages that affects your life. Because every single one of us is in that. Whether it's going backwards on reproductive freedom, whether it is gutting agencies that will save our planet, everything is actually in there. And instead of, like I said, they said not just the quiet part out loud, they put it in a book. And I think it's so important because some of these ideas aren't new. Some of these things they've been talking about and planning for a long time. But for us, as you said, I don't know if it was as much just a strategic blunder as it was an opportunity for us to have a clear understanding of how high the stakes are. And I think that's the point about this moment. It's clear. My colleague Jim Clyburn says, I heard him say at an event recently that we always say this is the most important election of our lifetimes. People hear that all the time. And he said, well, this one is the most consequential. The consequences of this election, we're going to feel for generations to come. And it's even more, I think, important for our veterans to understand what the consequences are for them and their families. That's the other thing I love about our plan. We tried to make sure that it was comprehensive, and that not only did we focus on our service members, but we also focused on their families, but more specifically, children. Like, I didn't realize until I started doing this work that 1.6 million children in our country are touched by a service member, are part of those families. And so to be thinking about things like making sure that our service members, when they transition, have the supports they need, whether it's to start their own business, whether it's to make sure they have access to health care or affordable housing or childcare or reproductive health. There's that piece of it, but then there's also what experiences children have as family members. And then the other piece of it is how do we build toward the future so that we can encourage and incentivize young people to go into the military, young people to think about how can I serve this country. To me, that's why we tried to come up with a comprehensive plan that really had the fingerprints of all types of veterans, including my deputy chief of staff, Kevin Diamond, who is a Marine. I learned you're never like was a Marine, you're always
That's
a
right. Yeah.
Marine. And so again, that's why I'm so proud of what we've been able to put together. Almost 70,000 Delawareans are, service members or are veterans. And so this is really, really important to us.
It's Ken Harbaugh. Need to take a quick break here because I wanted to let you know that I have finally decided to take the plunge and figure out social media. The Ken Harbaugh Show is now up on TikTok and Instagram and Reels and Threads. I've got a great team pulling all this content together. Please check out the links in the show notes and follow the Ken Harbaugh Show pretty much everywhere. Thanks, as always, for the amazing support. None of this would be happening without you. Well, it's comprehensive, as you said, in all the right ways. It even has call outs for Gold Star families. That is, especially important
Yes.
to me. We'll make sure to put a link in the show notes once it is fully public on your site, so that
Because you got
people
the
can.
exclusive. We came to you first.
We did.
We came to you first, which
We did. Thank you.
no.
I want to go back to Project 2025 and the opportunity and the masterclass in political messaging that I think the Democrats delivered. We were both at the DNC and looking at how the party made this a campaign
Oh,
issue.
yeah.
I remember we had Jason Crow on a couple of weeks ago, and he brought
The
the
big book.
book up there with him.
Yes.
And I think we deserve a heck of a lot of credit because 6 months ago, nobody was really talking about it except in like these rarefied circles, and somehow we were able to communicate that and the threat it
Yeah.
posed to the American voter. And
Yeah.
I think that's really important, and it's a reminder that persuasion still works,
That's right.
messaging still works,
That's
and informing vote. It's not just about animating
right.
through anger and emotional response.
Right.
Providing information about the choice matters.
That's exactly right. I mean, they wrote it. I mean, it's there. And I think to your point, during the convention, when different individuals would get up and read a page, again, not personal, not an attack, it's what you wrote. It's what you said you intend to do. And to your point, I remember going to an event with seniors, and it was interesting because they brought it up. They brought up, hey, have you heard about this project 2025? Well, actually, she didn't even say project. She just said 2025. Everybody in the room knew exactly what she was talking about. And I think to your point, I look at, people like Hakeem Jeffries, who will hopefully be the next Speaker of the House. And, I look at our members and how it was important for us. We are a big tent party. We are. But there are some things that are just foundational. There are some things that we believe in. And, for us, part of this was to communicate it to the American people so that they can see clearly the difference. I mean, a split screen between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump says 1,000 words without even speaking. But when you look at what the policies are, the fact that we have plans and not concepts, when you look at, I mean, that's another thing that's stuck in my head. It's like plans versus concepts, us having, real focus on I love the vice president's focus on a opportunity economy, because that's all people want. People want opportunities. And again, kind of shifting back even to our veterans, when they serve our country, they should be able to come home and have opportunity. And that again is part of the vision that we see. I also think what was really great at the convention and what the feeling has been is this feeling of turning the page. Speaking of Project 2025, how about close the book? Turning the page, but also having some joy again for people. Being able to talk to your neighbor again. Or your uncle for that matter. And I think that was the other thing that has come out of this. And I guess what I would encourage people right now is, we've got less than 20 days now until the election. And I hear a lot of people up and down my state say, I'm excited, but I'm scared. There's a lot of, I'm excited, but I'm anxious. And I think this is another reason why your service, even seeing that flag behind you, this moment to me is about love of this country. You know, not trying to become some authoritarian. People fought and died, for us to have our right to vote, for us to have our rights at bodily autonomy, which is something in the Senate I will be fighting for again. Um, I love the saying, we may have come over on different ships, but we're all in the same boat now. Well, it's why you will even see Republicans standing up with the vice president and with our party to say, you know, at this moment, our country, we as a people are more important in this moment, and we can't go back. And I think, the service that you provide, I want to thank you so much for that, because it is important that these stories get out there, that these, even the podcast about like burn the boats. Some people when don't know my story, but how I ended up running for Congress in the first place after being an intern in a congressional office a long time ago and a cabinet secretary, Department of Labor, and that's why I love jobs. But it was after the unexpected death of my husband from rupturing his Achilles tendon. playing a game of basketball, and blood clots went to his heart and lungs. And Charles passed away at 52. And I was not sure what was next for my life. And literally, it was seeing a dad in the supermarket with 3 kids put back grapes because they were $9. That shook me out of my own pain and made me want to step up and serve. But but one of the things that Charles, my late husband, would say to me was burn the boats. And I think a lot of times I didn't know what that meant at first, but it is like, look, we're going full steam ahead and we're not turning back. Like, we are not turning back. And so I want to thank you, Ken, for what you are doing in this present moment, because that's all of us need to do is do our part. Not everybody can do a podcast. Not everybody can run for office. But I always tell people, my best friend Michelle said, I don't have $1,000 to give you, Lisa, but I can make you beef stew. I can make you spaghetti while you're on the campaign trail. Everybody just has to do their part. And that's what's so special about our veterans, about our service members, and about the future of young people getting into, serving our country. Everybody just do your part. That's it.
Yeah.
Do your part.
Michelle Obama said it best. Do something. Do something.
Do something.
And you're so right about the DNC and the convention and that feeling of joy that was just everywhere in the room, especially contrasted with the Republican convention, which was just grim. I mean, when you compare the roll calls, just as one example, that was a highlight for me. The other highlight of the entire experience was the patriotism, the full-throated patriotism on display. And I think veterans especially are really picking up on that. I am working very closely with Veterans for Responsible Leadership this cycle, which has pretty good data that Trump could well lose the veteran vote, which is really striking for a former Republican commander-in-chief to lose the veteran vote. He is on track to do that. And it's because I think there's an authentic patriotism, which is about making America better and making America live up to its promise, instead of this phony performative patriotism, which is about, again, air quotes, making America great again, going back to a time that never existed in the first place. And I'm just so glad that we're in this fight together.
Me too. And I mean, and calling, veterans suckers or losers doesn't help. I mean, that just doesn't, I don't know what he's doing, but I do know it was beautiful to see, like you said, on full display. I'm sorry, I'm like choking up about it, that, we are in this together. This is our moment. And so thank you, Ken.
Thank you. We'll obviously put all the links below. I know you're on a good glide path to win, but we're not going to take anything for granted. Like my good senator says, Sherrod Brown, you either run unopposed or you run scared. So we're going to run through the tape in November. We've got your back, Congresswoman Rochester. Thank you for everything you're doing.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you, everyone. Take care.